Environment Florida believes that drilling off our coasts endangers our communities and our sea life. That's why we oppose the Trump administration's offshore drilling plan. Let's see what others have to say.
Thank you all for being here today for our People's hearing on the proposed 2019 to 2024 Outer Continental Shelf oil and gas leasing program. This draft proposed program opens 90% of federal waters to oil and gas exploration. And close to home, that includes the South Atlantic, the eastern Gulf of Mexico, and the Straits of Florida.
Drilling off Florida's coast is a huge threat to our state's environment and tourist-driven economy. Opposition to drilling is one of the few bipartisan issues that unites Florida's congressional delegation. The waters off of Kennedy Space Center and Patrick Air Force Base are the site of testing for the first stages of satellite and rocket launches, like the SpaceX launch this week. To be clear, drilling activities are incompatible with these military missions in these areas and therefore do not serve the nation's best interests.
How many fish are there? How will they be impacted? How will corals be affected by this? These were all questions that we didn't know the answer to. Well, we still don't have enough answers, and we still don't have enough regulation. 6 years it took after Deepwater Horizon to pass sensible regulation governing the way that oil and gas would be drilled and produced. This is not sensible. This is not rational. This does not serve our interest.
Offshore drilling is a major threat to Florida's beaches, coastlines, commercial and recreational fishing, and our unique marine species, as you mentioned, all of which are major economic drivers for the state. The return is simply not worth the risk of drilling. And I would just want to re-emphasize that. The return is simply not worth the risk of drilling.
And we talk about offshore drilling. It's so uniquely bipartisan. And the message is clear. This opposition is not going anywhere. It's only getting stronger. So today we're here to say that we're against offshore drilling and we're here to protect our coast.
Tourism depends heavily on clean, healthy beaches, and tourism provides more than $100 billion to the state economy each year. The magic of Florida beaches contributes to high coastal property values and a strong tax base that supports schools, roads, and other important government services. It's time to stand united, not as Republicans or Democrats, but as Floridians, and oppose drilling. It's time for conservation and restoration of our coastline, not exploitation.
If some elected officials want to protect Florida's coastline, they need to work to move away from fossil fuels entirely, and that's exactly right, and we can do that. We can electrify transportation. We know how to make clean fuels, and it's wholly unnecessary.
We have 29 electoral votes in this state. Only 2 states have more. Florida has chosen the winner correctly in every presidential election except for one since 1964. So you pretty much, if you want to be president, you have to win Florida. And if you want to be president, whether it's the existing president or somebody who's going to run in the future, if you want to be president, the path is through Florida, and you have to stand strong with the people of Florida against offshore drilling.
We need to protect our coastline for environmental reasons, economic reasons. There's so many reasons, and my reason is really for not just a business, but for my family as well. I am looking at the business that I'm running now as something for my son's future. And if we put that at risk and it goes to the wayside, I don't know what I would do. It would be an absolute heartbreak. So I stand with everybody here today in opposing any new offshore drilling plans and encourage everybody to gather some friends to stand with us.
This potentially disastrous proposal to radically expand offshore drilling is absolutely the wrong direction to be taking. We know it's a recipe for disaster, and we know it because we already lived through it.
Despite the performance of Governor Scott and Secretary Zinke, offshore drilling is still on the table. In fact, Secretary Zinke's statements may have made it easier for Big Oil to sue to gain access to the Gulf. They could come as close as 9 nautical miles on the Gulf side and 3 miles on the Atlantic side. So, it's not just here in Florida that we need to stop drilling. And just our neighbors, Alabama and Georgia, if there's a spill in Alabama, it's going to affect Pensacola. If there's a spill in Georgia, it's going to affect Jacksonville. We don't need that. And the point is, we don't need the oil.
Florida waters are our competitive advantage. Our waters drive our economy, they enhance our quality of life, they sustain our health. Offshore drilling threatens all of that. Floridians stand to lose the benefits of not only our coast, our oceans, our Gulf, our beaches, but also our inland waters. Our rivers, our estuaries, our bays, all of our inland waters are also at risk.
Even if there's no major catastrophe, the marine wildlife is devastated by cumulative impacts of seismic testing, routine spills, air pollution, increased vessel traffic, and other fallout from industrial oil and gas development in our oceans. None of our oceans are expendable, and we should not be treating them as sacrifice zones for industry. These are public waters that belong to all Americans.
I am heartbroken for my daughter, my future daughter, that she will not experience the same pristine beaches that I got to experience. If we allow this drilling to happen, it could get much worse, and that's what I'm afraid of. That's why I'm here today.
The spokesperson from Governor Scott's office saying that it was a real shame that the perception was so terrible about that spill because not a drop of oil ended on Florida's beaches. And I just want to say, if that kind of misinformation is what is governing our policymakers, we really need a change. So let's get out there and make a change.
I'm a surfer, a scuba diver, everything in between, and I can't do what I love, and I can't continue to do what I love if this goes through.